Hi, welcome to the International Hotels Chain International, the Hawaiian branch. How can I help you today?
Hi, yes, I'm Carter Cook. I'm here for my check-in at 4 p.m. I booked a room for the week.
Oh, wonderful. Let's get you checked right in. Is your stay with us for business, pleasure, or a mix of both?
I'm actually here for the local trauma convention. I'm a distant relative of Captain James Cook, the British explorer who brought all of the Cook Pines to the islands. He was killed in 1779, and since then my family has been torn up about it.
Oh, well, I'm very sorry to hear that, sir.
Yeah, it's been really tough dealing with his death. These last 243 years have been anything but easy, but this convention, I believe it's called Survivors of Wars Long Past, apparently has a pretty impactful message for us Cook family survivors.
Really? How so?
Well, they're going to have us go through some group activities. There's beverages and snacks. Additionally, they have a pretty in-depth message about King Kamehameha I. Something to do with a broken paddle? Apparently, it's one of those forgiveness stories. I don't really like those, but I'm hopeful it'll help somehow.
Well, that sounds quite interesting, sir, and I truly hope it brings you peace. Well, it looks like you're all checked in. You'll be on floor 17, number 79.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate your help. If you want to check out the convention and some of the topics on Kamehameha, you should watch this itty-bitty little ditty of a video. It'll only take a few minutes. Welcome to the History Out of the Box podcast. I am your friendly neighborhood couch historian, Cam. And here with me is my lovely, wonderful, beautiful co-host, wife. Yeah, I don't have my ring on today. Uh-oh.
He's not available, guys. I'm sorry. My name is Jen. Hi, another couch historian, one could say.
Yes, and this is History Out of the Box. We are a podcast that focuses on the intricacies and the details of historical figures that have come before us. I believe that we are the only podcast that is competent enough to connect our listeners with the ghosts of their collective past.
And the only history podcast to exist on this planet.
Yeah, we should probably stop saying that.
I hate to admit this, but we've been lying to you. There are lots of history podcasts, but, why not throw our hat in the ring, right?
Yeah.
We like history.
Yeah. Few brief disclaimers before we jump into it. If you happen to like our content, you can find it on Instagram at History Out of the Box. There'll be a little box that pops up probably there or there that shows, our Instagram account. We also have content on YouTube per the situation you are currently in watching us. Breaking the fourth wall there. And we post every week. So you can find our content mostly every week. I know this is going to come out after a week we're out of office. So I guess.
I know, you missed us.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we're here.
Yeah.
This one's actually really exciting.
I didn't get to my second disclaimer.
Oh.
Second disclaimer. We are couch historians and we are not linguists. So sometimes we might not say things the correct way.
As in pronunciations. As in me. I think I may have... Sometimes certain words are hard for me to say, and I really do try my best. I sound them out. I practice them. In fact, beforehand, I usually sit there and practice them over and over and over again. And sometimes it sticks. Sometimes it doesn't. I really want to do my best. I do want to respect, names that are not typically English sounding,
so. If we can't, we can't, and who cares?
This one's particularly, I'm really, really, I want to nail this.
Godspeed. Who are we talking about?
We are talking about Kamehameha I. I'm really excited about this one. I know I've been talking about this one for a while. Although I will say we've been doing a lot of warrior type people in the past couple episodes. So this might be the great, the last one for some time.
Well, we haven't done any musicians.
We did
recently. We did one musician. We did Michael Jackson. He's a performer. Yeah. We did Judy Garland.
He's a musician.
Okay, he's a musician. You get what I'm saying,
right?
We did Judy Garland.
She's saying
that's it.
Yeah,
we haven't done any actors or other musicians.
We're gonna do some other people besides just warriors. So, but this one's actually really, really exciting for me. Kamehameha I was a Hawaiian monarch who lived in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. He's best known for unifying the Hawaiian Islands and establishing the Kingdom of Hawaii, which lasted from 1795 until his death in 1819. And fun fact, Kamehameha means the very lonely one. Interesting, right? So are you ready to talk about the life of the king of the Hawaiian Islands, Kamehameha the First?
Well, seeing that I've been to Hawaii multiple times, low-key flex. Yeah, sure.
I'm really excited about this one. Now, some accounts say that Kamehameha was born in 1758 on the big island of Hawaii in Kohala, Hawaii, which is maybe in the month of November is when this happened. His birth name was Pai'ea, which means hard-shelled crab, and Hawaiian seers had actually prophesized that a great light in the sky with feathers like a bird would prepare Hawaii for a great chief. Therefore, the 1758 date is usually honed in on because that was the year matching a visit from Halley's comet. Which most people are familiar with. Now, the date range of his birth is probably somewhere between 1748 and 1761, according to some historians. However, a published account of Kamehameha's life in 1867, so closer to when he actually lived, did place his birth year in 1736. So we've got a wide range here. For the purpose of just picking a date and sticking with it for this podcast, we're going to say 1758. Now, Kamehameha's parents and his were, pretty important people in the island of Hawaii at the time. His father was Keoa and his mother was oh, see, look, I'm going to try.
Keikui Waipoa.
Yeah, Keikui Waipoa. Yes. Kamehameha's parents were his father, Keoa, and his mother, Keikui Waipoa. And Keoa was likely the chief of Kohala, where he was born, and his mother was the daughter of a Kona chief. Now, according to Hawaiian tradition, he was born with a prophecy that he would become a great warrior and a conqueror because of that comet, or, as they put it, great light in the sky. And also there were reportedly some other strange incidents that happened around his birth. So he was actually hidden away as a very young child, away from the public eye to protect himself from the potential threats of surrounding tribes and chiefs.
So he was like Harry Potter.
Sure. Kamehameha is the original Harry Potter.
He was hidden away.
Yes. Under a cupboard in the
with his aunt and uncle.
Yes. Well, actually, we're not quite there yet, but he did go to his uncle later on. But yeah, he was hidden away, kept away from the public eye because of this prophecy. And he was secluded in the Waipio Valley, or Waipio, until he was returned as a child to Kailua. And his father died very shortly thereafter. When Kamehameha was very young, his father died. So the young boy was then taken to be raised in court with his uncle, who was the king, Kalanipu'u. And yeah, so just kind of like Harry Potter, he went to go live with his uncle.
This is going to be an interesting episode. These are some wonderful names.
You know what? The Hawaiian language, I don't remember how many letters it has, but it doesn't have the same amount of letters as in the English language. So you recognize like a K and an L. And
at least you can.
But their language has different letters, and it's just one of those things where you really have to think when you're speaking, because the English language sometimes doesn't translate very well to learning other ones. So,
well, the good thing about it is at least you can kind of sound it out to some degree if you go to somewhere like Sweden or Norway.
Honestly, it's one of the Hawaiian language is one of those like really beautiful languages. When you hear a language and sometimes you're like, it's a little rough.
No, I don't.
I'm not going to single one out.
I've never once ever heard a language that's a little rough.
When those like YouTube videos where people make where they're like, if you were an English speaker, this is what English would sound like, and it's like them saying watermelon, Jesus, blah blah blah, tabletop, and you're like, oh, that does sound kind of weird. The Hawaiian language, much like in my opinion, like French and Spanish, is like one of those like very beautiful sounding languages. So you listen to someone speak it and you're like, that just sounds good to the ear.
I think you have a language bias.
Okay, well.
This might be something that we have to talk about.
Their names are so beautiful, but sometimes they're kind of long and I have to sound them out. But, I really want to try my best here. But during his childhood, Kamehameha received an education in Hawaiian culture and arts of war. He was trained in the use of weapons, and that would include spears, clubs, that sort of thing. He was skilled in Hawaiian martial arts, and as a young man, he was described as very tall, very strong, fearless. He was present at the battle of the British explorer Captain Cook when he was killed. That's a pretty famous story. If you haven't heard of it, the battle was famously called the Battle of Kealakekua, which is on the island of Hawaii, the Kealakekua Bay in 1779. That was the battle where there were conflicting reports of how the quarrel began, but Captain Cook, he came to the island
with a bunch of pine trees, and he was insistent on planting them.
Oh, yeah. If you've ever been to Hawaii and you see these very tall pine trees, they're famously called cook pines.
And Kamehameha was like, nah, dude, we're not going to plant these here. And Captain Cook was like, but I have nowhere else to plant them. And then that's how the battle started.
Well, that's not how the battle actually went, but yes. No. In fact, he was at the island for a while. Then he kind of came back in an unwelcome fashion. A group of native Hawaiians, according to, them, stole one of his small rowboats. Cook retaliated by kidnapping the king, basically, and holding him hostage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the native Hawaiians retaliated back by killing him. And according to them, while his back was turned, like a lot of the famous photos here actually show Captain Cook getting killed while his back is turned. And as for Kamehameha's part, apparently his actions that day gave him a certain sense of notoriety. So who knows? But Captain Cook died there. And apparently Kamehameha was there, present that day. But additionally, he famously turned over the Naha Stone, which is a very large volcanic rock believed to hold mana, which basically means spiritual power in Hawaiian. And it's located right now in Hilo, Hawaii. Still there today, displayed in front of the Hilo Public Library. It's kind of like, if you wanted to relate it to something maybe in English history, the Sword and the Stone. What?
No, just continue.
So the Sword and the Stone story with Arthur, right? He pulled the sword out of the stone. Well, in this legend, whoever could lift this 5,000-pound stone, the Naha Stone, would become Hawaiian king. And according to legend, Kamehameha did it.
That would make him one of the strongest people to have ever lived.
Yeah. Well, he's apparently a really big, strong guy. So, if you can see, there's the stone right there. It's still...
That's a big stone.
Yeah, it really is.
That is a really big stone. 5,000 pounds. That is... basically a car.
Yeah.
It's a Mini Cooper.
Who knows? I mean, people lift Mini Coopers.
Turn it over? I mean, are we talking like, how do we do this?
I don't know the details, but
was it on the side? There's a lot of questions I have.
Well, he lifted it according to history, and that was sort of like fulfilling prophecy.
Very cool.
So in 1782, Kamehameha's uncle, Kalaniʻopuʻu, he actually died. And his son, Kiwalo, he inherited kingship of that area. And Kamehameha, however, was given the responsibility of the Waipio Valley and a prominent religious position as a guardian of the god of war, Ku, one of the four great gods in Hawaiian religion. Now, remember, they were kind of raised together because the uncle took care of Kamehameha once his father had died. So it's kind of interesting. He was like not the king, but you can have this power over here. And I considered it, when I was looking into this, sort of like the separation of church and state, right? So in very basic terms, Kiwalo, he was the clear heir to the throne, and Kamehameha was the one who had the war god on his side, right? Like that was the distinction there. And things were peaceful at first between the two, of course, until they eventually weren't.
Well, he represents the war god. I mean...
yeah,
it's all about fighting wars. You're about that god, I know that because of God of War.
Well, you have to imagine Kamehameha was probably told throughout his life that he was, meant to be the chosen one,
to defeat
Harry Potter,
the Dark Lord, he who must not be named.
Yeah,
I know you were about to say it. You were about to say the name.
Not fear the name. Only increases fear of the thing itself.
Anyway.
Now, when conducting a funeral for a chief, Kamehameha actually made a dedication to the gods. Instead of allowing the king, basically, Kiwalo, to do so instead. So he basically took that from him. It was a very specific ritual that Kiwalo had an honor and responsibility to do, and their relationship began to sour after that, leading Kamehameha to accept the allegiance of a group of chiefs from Kona. Now, remember, we're talking about two separate sides of the island. If you've ever seen or been to the island of Hawaii, you will know that there is a lot of times referenced as like a dry side and a wet side. Like there's the west side of the island typically gets a lot more rain than the east side of the island usually gets a lot more rain than the west side.
What side was he on?
He was on the east side.
He's on the dry side. The wet side.
Yes. Yeah. Waipio Valley. Now, this led to a 4-year war between the cousins, and Kamehameha's forces were fierce. He actually took Kiwalo's daughter and he took her captive and made her one of his own wives, which is, you're fighting with the guy. You take his daughter and make her a wife. It's fighting words, as one would say. But eventually all this fighting led to Kiwalo and his ultimate death. This gave Kamehameha control of half the island of Hawaii. So there you go. Yeah, it was a lot of infighting very quickly. What's your face?
I don't know why it's so common these days for people to ignore the internalized violence of every community that ever existed.
It's unfortunate. I mean,
there's no
people be people in is my new
people be people in all the time. People be people in all the time. And honestly, like that's it. Yeah. Over a religious thing that.
No, they were fighting over power. Yeah, unfortunately, the fight for power transcended over all nations at some point. You know,
I don't know why people want it. I don't know why. This is a genuine.
Then you're destined for power.
This is a genuine question. I didn't say I don't want it. I say I don't know why people want it. This is a genuine question I have because you're just asking for more problems. I mean, it's the more money, more problems argument. Like, you get millions and millions of dollars. Yeah, you have more power, you have more notoriety or whatever. But you also have a lot more problems that most people don't have to deal with.
Yeah. Well,
like we were talking about Jay Beebs this morning.
Oh, yes, the Beebs.
And whether or not he happens to appreciate someone very significant in his life. And there's video footage that's interesting. One of which he walks out of a truck and slams the door, and then that other person, like, basically gets slammed in the door and opens it, then follows him. And that wouldn't be noticed by anyone if he wasn't famous. Now, granted, it doesn't make it better. It just means it's like, I don't know. I just think that it's just weird that there's this desire for these things when, from my perspective, most people can just get along. We could all just compromise and be happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, unfortunately, history does not agree with you.
I know it doesn't.
Yeah. Now let's talk about his rise to power, specifically starting with the island of Maui. Now, as Kamehameha grew older, he became known for his physical strength and his courage. He soon became a very respected warrior and leader. He fought in several battles against rival chiefs, eventually gained control of the Big Island entirely. Now, at the time, Maui was ruled by someone named Kahekili, and he was a king who ruled over Oahu, Maui, Molokai, Lanai, sort of that middle. If you look at the Hawaiian Islands, at least the main ones, it's kind of smack in the middle.
All the tourist destinations today, yes.
Well,
most of them.
You can still go to the Big Island, Hawaii, and
most
and Kauai, but yes, so smack in the middle. Those ones right in the middle. He had an agreement with his half brother who ruled over Kauai and Niihau as well, and Kamehameha set his sights on him first. He was like, I want that big chunk in the middle. So, aided by Isaac Davis and John Young, who were two captured Englishmen who had eventually integrated into Hawaiian society, they took Hawaiian wives and, but they were originally Englishmen. I don't know about you, but Isaac Davis and John Young aren't exactly Hawaiian names. But Kamehameha invaded the island of Maui in 1790. And once arriving, it was clear that the Maui king, Kahekili, was not there. He was actually on nearby Oahu, trying to stem a revolt happening on that island. So using cannons salvaged from the Fair American, which was a captured English brig that was occupied once by Isaac Davis before he obviously was taken. That's a whole story in itself. I didn't do any of that in the notes, but it's a very interesting story.
Wow.
Yeah. So this captured brig, the Fair American, had all this cannon that they had salvaged. And Isaac Davis and his crew, he was the only one spared from that entire thing. They used cannon from that ship, and Kamehameha's warriors forced Maui warriors to retreat fairly quickly. And infamously, it's said that the casualties of the Maui warriors were so much that their bodies actually dammed up a stream, which is very gruesome. But yeah, I know. A lot. But however, in his absence, Kamehameha's cousin, Kioa, not his dad, similar, same name, but different guy, chief of Puna and Kau, decided to pillage and destroy the west coast villages of the island of Hawaii.
This is a very loving family.
A lot of family drama.
Yeah.
A lot of family drama.
Yeah. Kamehameha, an interesting show.
Yeah, it would be. I know that a lot of people have said they want like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, to play Kamehameha, which if you look at the description, look at Dwayne Johnson, like makes sense that you would want him to play. But
there's differences.
Who knows? But Kamehameha was hearing about this, so he rushed home to deal with that, and he defeated him in two very fierce battles. He then decided it was time for a break. Like, he's exhausted. I can't even imagine. And he retired to the West Coast. His divine right or destiny to unite the islands and having power over them was only amplified when the Kilauea volcano exploded and wiped out a lot of the opposing army with toxic fumes, which they kind of looked at as divine intervention, right? The volcano exploded. The opposing army had to retreat south because they were all dying from
volcano.
Yes. Yeah. So
death by volcano.
Exactly. And it was a rare occurrence for the volcano to explode like that. So it was like prophecy fulfilled, right? The Civil War in Hawaii was the last Hawaiian military campaign to be fought with traditional weapons. Okay, so remember the spears, the clubs, that one on the Big Island. From that point on, Kamehameha adopted Western technology into his battles, likely attributing to much of his massive success later on. And he amassed a large amounts of firearms from foreign ships that would stop in the Kealakekua Bay, which was where Captain Cook was killed. After they heard of Cook's slaughter, still people were like, this is a great trading opportunity. So they kept coming by. And these weapons were expensive, but Kamehameha knew that they must be wielded to conquer these other islands. And at one point, Kamehameha was given the formula for gunpowder, which was a huge deal. The secret recipe, if you will. It was sulfur, saltpeter, and charcoal, all of which were in abundance in Hawaii. So this was like a miniature
colonialist scenario, wasn't it?
I mean,
kind of. Within its own little world of
the Hawaiian Islands were not united at this time.
Vibing different.
And he went to, there was the urge to unite them. And you could come up with all sorts of reasons why it was a good or a bad thing.
I'm not. That's what I guess what I'm getting at is within that own world, I'm assuming there were different tribes within that culture. So it was basically the dominant one saying, okay, well, now we're just going to take over everything. And if you get in our way, we're just going to wipe you out.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of fighting going on. That's for sure.
Interesting. Very dramatic.
It truly was. It truly was.
Should we take a commercial break?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And we're back. It has been a nice 10 seconds that we've sat here for a commercial break.
I've sat here and thought and meditated for a second and said, please, pronounce every name correctly. So
I don't think you should care. I honestly don't.
I do care.
In the sense that, I just don't think it matters that much. These are very difficult.
Yeah. Well, we're getting into the seer now. The seer. Ooh. Kamehameha. He was searching for spiritual power in order to know what to do next. He asked for advice from a seer on the island of Kauai and began to heavily, or even more so, worship the god of war.
Okay.
Or the war god, Ku. Well, that's actually the shortened version of his name. His name was very long, but it seemed like you could call him Ku.
Can we talk about something for a second?
Yes.
How does one become a seer?
I think there's an extensive certification program.
No, that's what I'm getting at.
Through the local community college.
Yeah. How does that happen? Do you just get good at guessing? Can you actually see things? Can you predict something and then it's just verified from one individual and spoken throughout communities and then eventually someone's like, oh, this person actually knows what they're talking about? How does that work?
I really don't know. So
it's a really intricate question for me.
But I would assume that there's some sort of religious background to someone who becomes a seer and then they have, either they think or they do have a gift of some sort of prophecy. You see it in every religion. I mean, it's in even westernized Christianity.
Prophet.
So it's
Yeah. So that's the question I have is how does that come about? Do you just wake up one day as a teenager and you predict the Chicago Bulls versus
I think that's what happened on Kauai.
The Miami Heat and all of a
said,
sudden,
oh my gosh. Chicago Bulls are going to do great today.
The 9-point spread. They're gonna,
I don't know the background of Hawaiian prophecy and the people who were sharing it, but they were well known. Religious figures have been big throughout every culture.
Who wrote the prophecies?
The person.
Someone had to have wrote
the seer. The seer.
This exact one?
I don't know. Not this seer.
I mean, if it was this exact one, that's a little.
I think there was more than one, but
no,
I don't think it was the same one. But he went for a consult. He went for a consultation. And it is not confirmed because he was worshiping Ku, more heavily. It's not confirmed, but some reports say that the rival chief, Keoa, the one who was, getting him back from Maui because he was pillaging and plundering and whatever. It's said that Kamehameha invited him to a place of worship to negotiate peace. But instead, he was killed and sacrificed to Ku. Now, some say he surrendered himself and actually did it on purpose, may have even offed himself because of whatever reason. The details are unclear, but Keoa did die. And Kamehameha was now the ruler of the entire island of Hawaii.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's how that happened. But let's not forget about Kahekili, who was, remember, on Oahu. He was the ruler of that big chunk in the middle. He wasn't there when Kamehameha came to Maui the first time. So he was still upset. He was like, dude, you came here while I was out trying to deal with all this going on in Oahu, and you decide to dam up a stream with bodies of my warriors. That I'm not taking that lying down. I think he said it just like that with a California accent.
Yeah. Real not cool, dude. I'm out surfing the waves, getting some grub, doing some fishing, handling some issues, and you come in here and you just flub it all up, my guy.
Yeah, just like that.
What's up, dude?
Yeah. What's up?
Step up, bro. You want to fight? Let's go.
Yeah. So Kahekili was not pleased. And while Maui was taken by Kamehameha while he was in Oahu, he couldn't deal with it. So Kahekili amassed an army of trained dogs, a group of tattooed men that it was like a very, think of it like an elite squad, right? Yeah, not quite like that. They didn't have your tattoos. No.
I'm a part of an elite squad.
Not quite.
Hey.
But while Kamehameha was distracted dealing with Keoa before his demise, Kahekili and his armies were up and down the coast of Hawaii, raiding villages, causing a ruckus.
Oh my
and
God.
There was a great battle called the Battle of Redmouth Gun.
That's
ensued
cool, man.
at sea. That might be the English translation.
Redmouth Gun would be a really cool band name.
It would be a cool movie name about Kamehameha's life.
We just giving ideas out now.
Yeah. I know. Call us.
Also, what a terrible time to be alive.
There's a lot of
You're
stuff.
just some dude, just chilling, fishing in the morning, and all of a sudden just a group of guys.
You're like, oh my gosh,
attacks
come
your
on.
home again.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool, guys, thanks. I have to build my house again. My family's dead.
You live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. So
yeah,
on the days
flowing
it's
with
good,
blood.
On the days it's good, it's really good.
That's great. Flowing with blood and screaming people.
Anyway, there was this great battle. The Battle of Redmouth Gun. It's ensued at sea. And if you see what the Hawaiian, the boats that they would fight with were really, really amazing that they were able to do these battles. But Kahekili retreated to Oahu after that, sort of with his tail between his legs. Shortly thereafter, an English merchant named William Brown stumbled upon the Honolulu Harbor, which was in Oahu. Honolulu, beautiful place. Probably, I would think Honolulu is probably the most touristy area of Hawaii. It's also the capital.
You know what the problem is in history? And I think this goes cross-culture, but specifically over the last 300 years. English people, us, by very weird, distant, well, technically we're Irish, but weird, distant proxy, we just happen upon problems and make them worse.
We tend to here's something I could exacerbate.
Well, it's not even. Well, here's the thing: it's not like Kahekili didn't ask for the help; he welcomed the help. So the way I look at it is not that. It's kind of like if you were like in middle school or high school and there's two people fighting. There's always that one kid. There's always that one kid that is either egging you on, or if one of them goes down, is willing to jump in and continue the fight.
Yeah.
And look, I don't think it's only specifically related to the English people or Americans or people first world. I think there are many instances that are just not reported of that same thing happening per what's going on in this particular context in this particular time in Hawaii. So that's kind of where I'm like, why do people do this? Why?
Oh, well, I think there tends to be a generalized, I'm going to stick my nose in someone else's business attitude.
Which,
with a lot of
here's the thing.
colonialism during that period of time.
Well, here's the thing. Is that, well, there was a lot of stuff going on before then as well. So you look at something like the guy who has like 100,000 offspring or something like that. In
Genghis Khan.
You look at someone like Genghis Khan and you're like, would it have been better if someone had showed up to mitigate his brutality against his own people?
If the lawyers of the people sat with the lawyers,
you get what
of
I'm
Genghis
saying?
Khan
Like,
in a conference room and worked
like,
it out.
like, hey, look, Genghis, like, we can work this out, do some sponsorships. You know, you can be a man of the people instead of a person who wiped out so many. So I guess the way
he fathered so many children that did it even out. I'm just kidding.
Did it even out?
It didn't. It did not. It did not.
So,
that was a terrible joke.
It was kind of funny, but I guess that's kind of where I'm at. Like, what is it better if it's not interfered with, or is it better if it's just left to its own devices and comes to its own conclusion? Because you get what I'm saying? Like, there's the millions of people killed by Genghis Khan. Someone had stepped in who was either as good or as bad as him or whatever, and mitigated that millions of innocent deaths, because that's what it is. Is that better or worse?
I don't know. I guess we'll never know. That's history, baby.
It's weird.
Until we have a
Nice
time
snap
machine.
there, yeah. That's it.
And we
God.
And we create all sorts of new...
Just wait. We will
all sorts of new timelines.
We will screw everything
explore.
up if the week... Here's the thing. I think we've already done it.
Maybe.
I think we've already done it. That explains all the weird nonsense. I think that's what it is. Anyway, back to...
We're going back to Honolulu.
Yeah, back to Honolulu.
Okay, so English merchant William Brown stumbles upon the Honolulu harbor in Oahu. And there, Kahekili, he partly in desperation, considering the situation he was going through with Kamehameha in Hawaii, the Big Island, he enlisted the help of Brown and his crew. Kahekili decided that he would, quote, cede the island of Oahu to Brown in return for military aid.
And who told that story? Was it Kahekili or was it Brown?
Probably Brown.
Oh, yeah.
But similarly, Kamehameha heard of this and he decided to do the same because he decided to cede the island, quotation, to the British for protection.
That was a mistake.
And for 3 years, Kamehameha drank up. He learned everything he could from the visiting foreigners on warfare tactics deployed by the British.
So, you know what's nice about this? I blame this on the Brits.
I think you honestly
blame
look,
this on
as
the
someone
British
who has
people.
British ancestry, you can blame a lot of things on the Brits.
I blame you
can.
and your ancestry. I have zero British ancestry,
There's
which is great.
part of my family are like, I'm not first generation.
Redcoats.
But yeah.
Redcoat
yeah.
loyalists.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
I've got some,
and then the other part of you is
Yeah.
daughters of the revolution.
my family is split down
Yeah.
the middle between daughters of the revolution and then those who fled to Canada during the revolution.
I was a Viking hybrid mutt Irish baby. So it tells you that someone came from Norway and was like, hey, these Irish Gaelic women are quite pretty. And somehow that came to be what I am currently. There's a whole other side of that that's very much more
Our
complicated.
spice is
But I guess
interesting.
I take pride because in 1776... we weren't going to Hawaii. We were fighting these guys. So I take there's a little bit of pride in that there was a similar type of thing going on.
It's
just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a tad.
We're stopping our this episode like at Kamehameha's death, but the history of the Kingdom of Hawaii and then its evolution into a United States it's
complicated.
It's somewhat dark.
Yeah.
We'll save that for another time. But okay, warfare.
Look, at least the founding fathers, the original OGs, they were not there.
They were
all I have to
probably
say.
they might be turning over in their graves. But
1776, 1794.
no, Hawaii didn't become a state for
I mean British
couple hundred
intervention
years.
is what I'm talking about.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we were not at that point the original guys, the original dream
the
team.
United States. Yeah, no, we weren't involved at this point.
I can understand that the argument I'm making is a little bit more complicated than how I'm watering it down. But those particular individuals were not involved. And
At this point.
At this point.
At this point.
At this point.
Okay, let's get back. Kamehameha.
They're innocent.
Yeah.
Those particular individuals at that point.
Kamehameha was learning about warfare tactics. Okay. He was like, I gotta be creative. We gotta take some new strategies.
We got some good advice from the British. Stand and shoot and reload, and stand in the same place and shoot and reload, and stand there and shoot and reload.
So we're going to Oahu. We're going to Oahu now. In 1794, Kahekili died. And his son, okay, now let me preface this before I say his name. I heard and saw several pronunciations of this name, and the ones I saw the most did not make sense to me. Ooh. So
you could just shorten it.
His name was Kalani'upule. I've seen it pronounced as Kalani'kapule, which didn't make sense to me considering just some of the other Hawaiian things I've heard. Kalani'kapule was like, what? I think it's Pule. So for the purpose of the rest of this, I'm just going to call him Kalani'k.
Or you could just call him Cal.
Kalani'kapule. Kalani'kapule is easier for me to say than that. And that is how I think it's pronounced. So Kalani'kapule was the son of Kahekili. Okay, Kalani'kapule. Now the leader of Oahu. He inherited the island, and his half-brother ruled over Kauai, Maui, Lanai, Molokai. And what could go wrong? You know, we've got half-brothers ruling over
they obviously
things.
Wouldn't kill each other.
And as it goes, as we have seen several times now, family be family and people be people, and they went to war. And they were fighting over the control of those islands.
You know what it tells me? They were just on an island. They were bored. That's probably what it was, dude.
These islands are so gorgeous.
But they're also very small.
There was no Orange Theory or Sprouts or clubs.
Well, it's kind of like if humans are left to their own devices in small spaces, they do what animals do, and normally they just kill each other.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they were fighting over control. And the half-brother eventually was killed along with most of his men. So with this victory, Kalani'kapule was encouraged and decided to develop a plan to take on Kamehameha head on. He's going to go on the offense.
Bad idea, bro.
And in his haste, Kalani'kapule was killed. He wasn't killed, excuse me. He killed the English merchant William Brown, who his dad had made an agreement with.
Not Billy Brown.
Over the Honolulu harbor.
My God.
So Kalani'kapule, they abducted the crew, and the crew was able to turn the tables on him and his men pretty fast. They actually forced the Hawaiians into canoes, sent them back to shore, and so they took their ship and took off. They're like, we out, we gone, we're getting out of here. But Kamehameha saw this as an opportunity as well. He said, "Oh, you're gonna get rid of your English counterparts, and you think you're gonna take me on? Nah." Kamehameha seized the opportunity, and he easily liberated Maui and Molokai. During this time, with an armada of 960 war canoes, 10,000 soldiers, it took very little effort.
Did they fight in the area that we are consistently near? Mm-hmm. That's wild.
Mm-hmm. So if you have any familiarity with the geography of the islands, the main islands of Hawaii, there is this chunk in the middle. Chunk sounds so ridiculous. There's several islands in the middle that you can all kind of see very clearly when you're standing on each one. So from Maui, you can see the big island of Hawaii really far away from certain places. But right next to it, you have Kahului, you have Lanai, you have Molokai, and I think you can see Oahu pretty far away as well. So like from Maui, you can basically see all of this. That's wild. But, and then the channels in between, they're famous for like the humpback whale migration.
Those channels, that water is
crazy. Wild. Yeah. So, if you go at a certain time of year, you'll see a bunch of whales. I mean, you'll see all year long, you'll see the wildlife there. But the current between those islands is so strong. It's kind of famous. There's several famous shipwrecks, especially on Lanai, where they have these giant tankers that later on actually just ran right into the shore, and they're still there to this day. You want to Google Earth them. I know you've seen them
very close. Yeah.
If you've been there, just next time you are there, just stand there and just imagine, almost 1,000 war canoes going towards those islands.
That's wild.
Pretty wild, right? So Oahu was the prize though. And Kamehameha was focused, but one of his chiefs, Kaiana, turned on him very suddenly for reasons unknown. And he actually joined forces with Kalani'kapule in secret. And Kaiana had helped cut notches into the Nu'uanu Pali mountain range, which is in Oahu. They formed a type of castle turret in the mountainside of so Kalani'kapule's cannons would be able to be stuck out of that. I know you haven't been there. I have been lucky enough to actually go to these notches. It's like a famous it's like a tiny little hike that you can take from overlook. Like there's like an overlook where what we're going to talk about happens. So you can actually go there and see exactly what we're about to talk about.
Was it well planned?
Wild. What?
Was it well planned? Did they have the right plan? Notches, or was it a military?
I mean,
fumble?
It would have been the right plan if they took some steps afterwards, but you'll see that it really kind of ruined the whole situation for them.
Gotcha.
Spoiler alert. But it's a beautiful, I mean, you stand there and you're like, oh, I can't believe this happened right here in this absolutely gorgeous place. But he helped cut these notches. He turned on him. But Kamehameha and his armies couldn't be stopped that easily. They couldn't. His men cornered Kalanikaupule's armies at the Pali Lookout. And this is a very high up on a mountainside in Oahu. They were taking heavy fire from those notches that were in the mountainside. So Kamehameha, he assigned 2 divisions of some of his best and brightest warriors to actually climb up onto those notches and surprise those who were working the cannons there and killed them. And it worked. So now they had control of the guns as well.
That's legitimately what I'd be expecting. I would be expecting people to be climbing up the notches to arrive at some point in time. Yeah. Of course, I don't know if there are any I don't think there's any native predators to Hawaii.
No,
so that's where
mongoose. I don't know if that's a foreign.
Probably foreign.
I'm not sure actually.
I don't even think there's
scorpions
or anything there.
Oh no.
So but in this instance, if it was me and there were scorpions, surprise attack scorpions to the face if they'd climbed up. It would have literally been just scorpions.
Just thrown
scorpions right at their face. They would not have been able to survive. The scorpions would have prevailed. Blast. And then there would have, scorpion blast. Yeah. Sounds like a Mountain Dew flavor for some reason.
Well, as far as I know, there were no scorpions involved in this battle.
Mountain Dew, scorpion blast.
But maybe that would have been better than what actually happened to them.
Yeah.
So Kamehameha had his divisions go up there, get rid of the guys behind the guns, and now there are guns. It's like when you're playing a video game and there's like someone with a sniper.
Except it's history.
Yeah, or like the machine gun or whatever, and you send yourself up there and you get rid of him, and then you have the machine gun, you just get to get rid of all the other people in the video game. Yeah.
You've never played first person. This is someone who's never played a first person shooter.
Yes, I have.
You've played Call of Duty? Like online?
No.
You've played Battlefield?
No.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
It's not that easy. It's a lot harder than you think it is.
I've played Uncharted.
Not a first person shooter. Yeah. Red Dead could be one. But with that being said, like it is a lot harder.
Yeah. Well, Kamehameha and his troops, they were very well organized. Like they were very, very good at this. Okay. Kalanikapule was panicking, and Kamehameha's men formed a very short, not short, like a sort of wall around Kalanikaupule's armies and his troops. And they boxed them in against the Pali Cliff that led to an 1,000-foot drop. And you can see this, like you can go there and see what this is talking about, and you'll be like, oh my God. There, Kamehameha's troops used muskets and traditional Hawaiian spears to force at least 400 warriors over the side of the cliff to their death, including Keana, Judas the betrayer.
Kind of a mercy. I feel like that would be a little bit of a mercy, jumping to your death as opposed to being the alternative. Well,
what happened to Kalanikapule? Did he go over the cliff? No, he was captured and sacrificed, which in some ways may have been a more dignified death for the leader. In Hawaiian tradition, I'm not 100% sure, but it might have been. And here, I know I have on the notes for you over there, Cam. You can see a depiction of the battle and then a picture from the same exact spot, and it's just a sheer drop off, and it is one of the most beautiful places to die.
Yeah,
it is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But they were forced off the cliff, the troops, and that is how he made the big W in Oahu. Kamehameha. He got to go back to Hawaii and say, I have Oahu as well as Maui, as well as Molokai. So he did have to go back to Hawaii actually to squash another uprising, because it seems like every time one of these leaders leave their island, there's someone else waiting in the wings saying, it's my time to shine. It's hard being a boss, right?
But especially of multiple places that are not connected.
Yeah, and you got to be in your boat, your canoe, getting between each one. He was able to squash that pretty swiftly. But
I feel like that, like I feel like that. Well, yeah, you can play.
That's why they had the best upper body strength ever.
Yeah,
they're just rowing
90. It's like it's their version of our version of sitting in traffic. You know, most of their life
they're
was
like
just
actually getting some healthy workout out of it. So for several years, Kamehameha went and sat with his armies on the island of Maui, where they continued to levy threats at the king of Kauai. His name was Kalamu'ali. Oh, I was going to say the king of Kauai. I'm sorry to any Hawaiian native speaker who
You're
is
now cursed.
Very
You're cursed now. Go
absolutely
ahead.
Disgusted with me right now.
Yeah.
So the king of Kauai, Kamehameha was sitting on Maui saying, like, you're going to give me Kauai eventually. And you're going to get as scared as possible while I levy threats at you. So in 1804, lacking success, he actually hopped one island closer. He went from Maui to Oahu. And he's like, I'm getting closer, dude. You know who I am. I'm Kamehameha, and everyone's scared of me. I look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, apparently, according to people who want Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to play him. I don't know if that's true.
A little less PEDs, but still. A little less. Significantly less PEDs.
We're fans of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson here. Okay. I am. All right. Now, he was still threatening the king. He's like, give me Kauai. I want Ni'ihau. Come on, please. He wasn't saying please at that point, probably.
No, he was going to take it.
He continued to threaten him. Now, preparations for battle then fell short because, sickness started killing a lot of Kamehameha's men.
Where did
they
that
think it may
come
have been
from?
typhoid fever or cholera, but basically like a pandemic kind of went through his men on Oahu. Now, for years, the tension continued.
Was there a lab on Oahu?
No. The tension between Kauai and Oahu remained nice and tight for a couple of years. Both of them were waiting for the opportune moment to strike.
And all the citizens were waiting for the opportune moment to flee for their lives. Because that's just what happens when you got two individuals swinging things.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was so close. He was so close. But here's what happened. King of Kauai, he agreed to become a tributary kingdom under the rule of Kamehameha. Why? Because an American trader... Here we are. We've arrived.
Uh-oh.
We've arrived. We're here to stick our nose in something.
It's the early 1800s. Now we're guilty.
So this American trader apparently convinced Kamehameha to make a deal with the king of Kauai.
Who is the guy? Do we know?
I don't have it written here, but
okay.
I'm sure. But the king of Kauai would recognize Kamehameha as a true king, but he could, so he would still be able to rule over Kauai as a tributary. Think of it as Game of Thrones. We have Ned Stark in the north, but still we have the king, Mr. Baratheon, down in King's Landing. Really, the king of Westeros. That is the nerdiest, best way I can compare it to. But yes, that is what the agreement was. So, not to mention, again, just like Game of Thrones, Kamehameha held the king of Kauai's son captive in Oahu as part of this agreement. Poor guy. But yeah, it all worked out.
Man, it's rough being...
Except for him.
It's really rough being in that period of time.
And I don't know, when they say held captive, I don't know if they had him locked in like something. He might have been just sort of like in Game of Thrones, like, you get to live in the castle, but you better behave. Yeah, that type of thing. Now, with Kauai and Ni'ihau under his complete control, through peaceful negotiations, instead of bloodshed, which was
interesting.
Very, very interesting way to end this. By 1810, Kamehameha was now the undisputed king of the entire island chain. There you go. King Kamehameha I. And he united the Hawaiian Islands. He established a central government, and he created laws to govern the islands, assigning governors to each to watch over each island. Famously, he established what is translated into English as the law of the splintered paddle. This is actually a very, very interesting story. The Hawaiian name is obviously not that, but this is just translated in English. This law protected common folk from the brutality of the Hawaiian chiefs. And the origin is this. In 1782, Kamehameha was apparently walking along. He got his foot stuck in a rock. And 2 fishermen saw him and were frightened of him due to him being a very fierce, warrior with no notoriety. One of them actually hit him over the head with a large paddle, breaking it and splintering it, one could say. Injured, Kamehameha allowed the 2 fishermen to escape despite what they had done to him. And fast forward 12 years later, those same 2 fishermen were actually brought to Kamehameha for punishment. And Kamehameha decided to withhold it. He said that the incident was his own fault because he was attacking blameless and innocent people, and he deserved it, basically. Instead of punishing them, he gave them land and set them free. So the basis of the law of the splintered paddle was this. So let every elderly person, woman, and child lie by the roadside in safety, or basically leave the innocent out of the nonsense.
Yeah.
And
kind of makes sense for the most part to just leave people who are innocent.
Yeah. And that was a pretty big deal in the unification of Hawaii, to basically say, like, when there's disputes, especially when it gets to this really horrific, horrendous way, you can't just bring everyone else into our BS.
Problems. Yeah.
So, additionally, Kamehameha did outlaw human sacrifice. It was an act that had once been performed to increase the sacred power of the king, or the mana. And Kamehameha developed a fortune as a king. He kind of made a monopoly over sandalwood trade and levying port duties on ships coming in and out of the island. So he was a businessman.
He learned something from the British.
He was a businessman for sure. And you remember Young and Davis, those 2 Englishmen who were like captive and then sort of integrated, and they're like, I don't want to leave this place. Are you kidding me? This is way better than downtown London.
They were basically what's their names from El Dorado.
Yeah, okay, sure.
It's basically who they were.
I mean, those were 2 Spanish.
I am integrating history
prisoners
with entertainment here.
Sure. Yeah. So those two Englishmen, they actually settled down with Hawaiian women, and they served as advisors to Kamehameha, helped him advance his weaponry. And explorer George Vancouver stated that Kamehameha had voiced an interest in bringing Christianity to Hawaii. However, he showed great reverence to the Hawaiian gods. He worshipped them, he really, really put a lot of faith in them because he believed that he became ruler through his faith in the Hawaiian gods.
And sacrifice.
That one time maybe. But his reverence was so convincing to Vancouver that he actually made sure the missionaries were not sent by Great Britain at this time to the Hawaiian Islands, which is, considering, again, we talk about people be people and family be family, and Brits be Britain and sending their missionaries everywhere.
Brits be tea timing.
Be tea timing. So, yeah, it was pretty notable that they didn't show up to the Hawaiian Islands at this time. But on May 8th, 1819, King Kamehameha the Great died at Kailua in the district of Kona on the island of Hawaii, which was his native island. He outlived much of his wives and children. He had somewhere between 21 and 30 wives and likely about 35 children.
Dear God.
Yeah.
That's too many.
He was at a ripe old age, regardless of the exact number, because remember, the birthday is kind of disputed, but he's probably around 61 years old. And following tradition, his final resting place remains a secret. To this day, his remains were hidden by 2 of his closest friends, protecting his mana, the sacred spiritual power. And Kamehameha III, a later ruler, and Kamehameha is the first son, he did at one point attempt to find out where his father was buried, but by one of the people who did bury him. But on the way to the location, the friend could sense they were being followed and turned around. So still to this day, no idea where Kamehameha the first remains were laid to rest. But his legacy as
you think we'll ever find it? I think
no.
I think we'll. I think with the technology that we have, someone's going to utilize it. James Cameron is going to be 150 years old, and he's going to utilize technology that will show the landscape and echolocation and all that jazz that they utilize down in South America to find all the, pyramids and all that stuff. He's going to use that, and then he's going to create something similar. He's going to put that into Avatar 7.
The thing is, why? Just let the remains be remaining.
Do you want to know why?
Why?
Because people be peopling.
They do.
And James Cameron be James Cameroning.
I think that if they were, for some reason, I think any like public attempts to find his body would be heavily pushed back against. And I think if they did end up finding his remains somehow, there would still be extreme pushback.
Sure.
Which it's okay. He's gone. Kamehameha is not alive anymore. Let me just make that clear. Yeah. And we could just let him be at peace. But Kamehameha the First legacy as a leader and a conqueror is still remembered and revered in Hawaii to this day. Although they are no longer the Kingdom of Hawaii, they are now the, I believe, 50th state, not the 49th. Alaska was first, right? I'm not 100% sure about that, but they are now part of the United States.
Pretty sure it was 50th.
That's a whole other conversation because there are some contentions because of that. But he is considered one of the greatest Hawaiian monarchs, and his life and accomplishments have become a significant part of Hawaiian history and culture. Actually, every June 11th, it's Kamehameha Day, and 4 commissioned statues across the islands, and actually one in Washington, D.C., are draped with flower leis to celebrate one of Hawaii's greatest kings. And you can see these statues for yourself. Again, there's one at the Washington, D.C. National Statuary Hall. They all kind of look the same, but there's also one in downtown Honolulu, Oahu. And then on the island of Hawaii, there's one in Kohala and in Hilo. So yeah, you can go check those out. They're beautiful statues. But yeah, Kamehameha had a very, very complicated and busy life. And there were long periods of probably rest. And then there was a lot of really, really crazy times. And he didn't die in battle. He died likely what you could equivalent to be warm and cozy in your bed.
On a scale of 1 to 5,000 pound rock, I put him on my scale as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yes.
And as on a scale of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's greatest films to his worst films, I put him right in the middle of probably Pitch Black.
Okay. There you go. Pitch Black.
Yeah. You ever seen the Chronicles of Riddick? Pitch Black, the first one?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was the only good one out of those. They kind of progressively got worse.
Yeah.
Wait, that wasn't Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. That was Vin Diesel.
Yeah, I was like,
what am I talking about? No.
I was so confused why you were bringing that up.
Wait, yeah, sorry. I'm thinking of Pitch Black, Vin Diesel. I get confused because of Fast and the Furious.
Because they're both bald.
No, yeah. It's also because Fast and the Furious is so many movies now and iterations after it ripped Paul Walker's death, the original character, by the way, that I can't keep any of them together. You know what? Fast and Furious franchise. Yeah. That's my rating.
Yeah,
that's my rating of King Kamehameha, Fast and Furious franchise.
You like the Fast and Furious franchise?
Up until up until 5.
I think that there's a lot of pieces of his life that are very, very interesting, and it's kind of amazing that he was able to
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson
do
would
all
have been
this.
He would have been a better character in Pitch Black than Vin Diesel. They should redo Pitch Black with Vin Diesel and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Okay, there's an idea.
But make it not Pitch Black remake, make it like another segment of Chronicles of Riddick.
Okay.
And really violent, really scary.
Not my thing, but sure.
But yeah, anyway, that's King Kamehameha. At least my rating was not San Andreas or Kong or whatever that was.
Oh, that one movie where there was like the albino gorilla. It was like the gorilla?
An albino gorilla, yeah. Was that Kong? Was that what it was called?
No, that's
it was
King Kong.
Jeez, what was it called? I can't remember any movies.
Like Savage or something like that.
Yeah.
Or Rampage.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah, at least it wasn't one of those. So decent. Better than Alexander the Great. Not as cool as Yusuke. I'm sorry, Yusuke was really cool. I liked Yusuke. He's my favorite so far. And then quickly followed by Catherine the Great because she was so dysfunctional. It was wonderful. Major care and energy. And then after that, I would say Jack Parsons was pretty cool too. But this is all obviously this is recency bias. So
they're all the most recent ones.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kamehameha was not the one that blew you out of the water, but I really liked this one.
I mean, he probably would have. He had cannons.
He did have cannons.
He saw me coming. He would have flying the British flag. He either would have welcomed me or blew me out of the water. So
yeah. Well,
there's a whole complicated scenario there that I don't think ever is going to be.
I do think the law of the splintered paddle is really, really,
really
cool.
Yeah, that is very cool.
So Yeah, that was King Kamehameha the First. Everyone, Kamehameha the Great.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I give him like a 7, 8.
Okay,
7.8.
it's pretty good.
One of the better ones.
As I said when we first started, I do want to. We're not going to do just warriors because I feel like we've done a lot of warriors in the last couple ones. So we're gonna. So this is a break from those. We're gonna do a couple other people. I get some ladies on there. Last lady we did was Catherine the Great. So don't worry. Don't worry. We're going to switch it up a little bit.
We're going to do Queen Elizabeth.
We'll be back to warriors eventually.
We're going to do Queen Elizabeth just recently. We're going to do her life. No, we're not.
I was like, we can do Queen Elizabeth.
I don't want to. I don't want to.
We've already done Anne Boleyn.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure it out. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. If you happen to like our content, you can find it on Instagram at History Out of the Box. You can also find our content on YouTube. And the question I ask would be, why should you subscribe? Well, if you like history, if you like learning about historical figures, and you don't like it that people kind of broad stroke people and either put them in the best possible light or the worst possible light, then this is why you should probably subscribe, because we talk about people in the light that is likely accurate-ish from what we can garner online and history. So
we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's talk about it all.
Exactly. So yeah, thanks again for tuning in. If you could hit that subscribe button and that like button, that'd be wonderful. If not, that's okay. And if you want to give us some suggestions on people, we are always open to them. Jack Parsons was actually a suggestion from a viewer, and we did a full episode on him. So if you have anyone in mind that you would like us to talk about who has to be dead, please let them be dead. And someone who's not a serial killer, unless it's a particularly interesting one that we've never heard of before. Likely, probably not one. We want to stay away from that. But yeah, if you think of anyone, just let us know in the comments and we will definitely check it out. But yeah, thanks again, and we will see you next week.